All the content contained in this webcast is for informational purposes only. The investments and strategies contained in this webcast may not be suitable for you. Please consult your own independent financial advisor before making any investments. Welcome back, traders. Second portion of our show, Market Movers, and Hunger Games looks like it's lighting a fire here under Lionsgate.
Yeah, lighting a fire again. I mean, this stock has been wild the last week with the Hunger Games movie. Stock is taking off again here this morning. There was some good comments in Forbes. Trading 15.19 right now after closing at 14.53. So stock is bouncing right off the whole 14 area, right through the 15, and right going back up and getting approaching Thursday's high, which I'll just get you that number was 1543. So we almost got up to there. I don't know if we actually breached that or not. Joel might be able to tell you. And then obviously Wednesday's high of 1619 is very, very important, that being the 52-week high. What was that high this morning here, Joel? How high did it trade here?
It traded, Dennis. It traded over $16. Actually, traded
Really
up to 16.29.
It really did in the pre-market. Wow, somebody really got excited.
Hungry for
I
profits.
guess so.
Okay, so
Right,
now that
awesome.
we have that 16.29 print, Dennis, and 16.19 being the high of the move, there's your bogey. There's your area, your target that you're looking for on the upside, as well as if you want to enter a short in this market, you could be looking at that. After getting way overdone at that level, it traded under the $15 level to 14.89, and that 15 has been acting as very good support as with yesterday's high at 14.96. So as long as we stay above 15, we got a shot to test that $16 level again. After if it can't hold 15, maybe a little bit of the luster is off the stock for now.
I want to focus on some of these financials today, Joel. They're really moving off of Bernanke's comments. Citigroup is now trading up over 60 cents, 37.70 after closing at 37.13. Citigroup's an interesting chart in itself, Joel. Last week we had three highs almost virtually in the same area: 38.40, 38.39, and 38.32. I know we're 60 cents away from there, but Citigroup can really move sometimes. So that's definitely a major resistance up there. Call that. What do you think on Citi?
That's we've been talking about this for a little while. We love formations like that when all the highs are in the same area. That's quite a bit of ways from where we're trading now. What you want to keep an eye on here is in the pre-market. Has been pretty good consolidation in highs at this 37.75 to 38.80, 37.80 area. So, in fact, if they can bust through that, I would look for a test of that triple top at that area. And also, we've also talked about this in a longer term perspective of when the stock had the reverse split, and basically it was at $50 and just nosedived. And much as it went down with with no support, it could easily go back up into that area's resistance and just fly through there and go.
Yeah, and I mean you make a good point there, Joel. When you have a reverse split like that, the float is so much smaller than it was before that the stock can move, very quick. We're talking about the reverse split it had there. What is that? Got to be a year and a half ago now. But anyways, the float's so much smaller that allows the stock to move much more quickly, which is why I think overall Citigroup has a little bit higher beta than some of your other financials. Goldman Sachs, Joel, this has quietly just been moving up and marching here last week. Continues to slowly march higher. 127.47 is where it's at now after closing at 126.18. We got a high there from 4 sessions ago, 127.86. So that is getting really close to there. I see a little size at 128, so call that whole area first point of resistance. What do you think, Goldman Sachs?
Yeah, this is such a tough one to trade, Dennis. Got faked out before when it broke above 119 and came up, came back down. But the moral of the story is you need to stick with your positions here. I don't see a lot at this 128 level except on the dailies, 127.86 to 128. So use that. It breaks above there. You'll probably have a little bit of size at 130. But this stock is really forming some major support at the 124 level. So if you're trying to buy it on the cheap, perhaps wait for a pullback to that area. But there's not a lot of resistance in this thing.
Might as well talk about one other one. Morgan Stanley here, MS. there's another one that's approaching a new high for the move anyways. We got there 4 days ago at 2070. Actually, 2070 coincides nicely with a high we had in February as well. And believe it or not, I see some size forming here at 2070. So some institutional or some major seller there is looking at those couple levels saying, look, I want out at that level as well. So I see over 100,000 shares kicking around in this 2070 area. And in the pre-market is trading at 2070. So let's just call MS the number to watch on this for resistance is 2070.
Yep, and it's only going to be up 37 cents going into that, so it's not like it's going to be up a buck or whatever. And just before we move, of our listeners requested information on Bank America. I know that's a heavily traded rebate stock and whatnot. And just looking at it, 10.10 so far has been the high of the move. It looks like we have some momentum to try and go and take that out. Above that, you have some highs back in July at 10.28. But the key thing for Bank America here is really to hold this $10 level on a couple. Because back when it broke down in July, it struggled to this area, couldn't hold it, and then that's when the bottom fell out to $5. So let's keep an eye on $10 on a closing basis for Bank America over the next week.
A couple other stocks that are moving are some of your gold stocks here, Joel. Gold, GLD itself is getting a decent lift, but I wanted to focus on a couple of other ones, big gold stocks. Barrick Gold, one of your biggest gold producers. They're based out of Canada, but getting a pretty good lift here too, Joel. ABX is the symbol on that one. 44.64 is where it's trading right now after closing at 43.76. So Alpha Bob X-Ray is actually breaking out over last week's. They made 2 or 3 tops there over the last couple of weeks, just in this whole 44 area and just slightly above it. So we look like we're getting a little bit above there, Joel. I know 44.40 is looking like where it was. I had a couple tops too. So just slightly above there. What do you think, ABX?
Yeah, 40. I see it's trading at 44.64. That coincides with 44.73, which was March 14th, and you got the gap there to fill to 45.05. So could be rough sledding in that area on the upside. But above that 45 area, there's really not much to 46. But we also have some listeners that like to do some numbers for GLD and Silveron. And you know what? It's almost useless to do the numbers the night before because this thing just moves so much. You never know. I have numbers from 160 to 163, and here it is at 163.41. So. Just got to keep an eye on the momentum in the gold and silver.
Yeah, they've been very strong. Overall, what I'm seeing here, a lot of financials are pretty strong, which we were already saying, but I'm seeing some of your commodity stocks that are pretty strong here this morning. Deere is up significantly here, Joel. DE this morning. Let's just do a quick technical on it. 82.65 is where it's trading at right now after closing at $80.84. So Deere is getting a great bounce here too. I mean, these things, took 3 or 4 days to sell off. Deere was $84 5 sessions ago, straight down to 80. Bounces straight off a key, psychological 80 number, ends all of a sudden trading 82.65, and we start talking about, the whole 83, 84 area again. What do you think on Deere?
I think it's a little recipient of the Barron's bounce, Dennis. I did see some favorable comments in Barron's regarding that issue. But 82.64 to 82.69 were some highs that we had on Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, and just above that, the 83.25 level. So getting a pretty big bounce. I expect some profit taking here in the $83 level. Looking at the pre-market activity, it's just been pretty much straight up, but very little volume associated with this move. So buyer beware on the Deere Open.
Caterpillar is a stock that often does trade with Deere. I know there's a lot of guys that like to pair trade those two out there, a lot of our listeners. CAT, obviously, the symbol on that one, and it's getting a decent bounce here too. Not sure if that's just a total sympathy move here with the Deere, but it's trading 109.19 after closing at 107.83. So CAT's getting a good bounce here too, Joel. You'd think the whole 110 psychological number might come into play, but what do you think on Caterpillar?
109.27 is where it's topped out in the pre-market. Not a ton of these moves, Dennis, but there's really not a lot of resistance in this stock. Gap to fill here, 109, if it can maintain this 109 level, I see resistance at 110.51.
Well, that's all we've really got time for today, Joel. Obviously, there's a few other market movers you can see on our sheets there. But yeah, overall, financial stronger. Commodity stocks are definitely stronger. So some stuff that was weaker last week is getting a good lift here this morning off the Bernanke comments. Any closing thoughts?
Yep, the Bernanke bounce here, opening into resistance, really major resistance from 1405. The highs we had midweek until the high of the move at 1408. So expect some trouble in this area. Any pullback to the under 1400, perhaps the 1397, 5098. Look for some support in the market. That's our show for today, folks, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.